we had kind of heard some stuff with Lou Holtz, and certainly it came to an end last night, and that's tough. It's tough. I've had the pleasure, Matty, of hearing him speak a few times, and I've never been more captivated by anyone in my life. Honestly, he had humor, he had life lessons, he had a way, and we're not talking about a guy who was the perfect speaker. He had a speech impediment. He did, and certainly we had fun with that over the years. It was almost the ultimate compliment. It made him unique, and he had spent the rare time here at Ohio State, that 1 year, but it was such a special year, the championship year of 68 when he was the DB's coach. And I know he was born in West Virginia, but the love he had growing up in Ohio, in East Liverpool, and graduating there, whenever you talk to him, the love he had for this school and this state, I think was unmatched, even in just the one season he was here. And it's so sad because I think he's such a legendary guy. And I know we went through the times with him and Ryan Day and calling the team soft. And when he was that on McAfee? I think it was on McAfee's show.
I believe so, leading into that game in South Bend.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff. You get a guy in his mid-80s, you put him out there with a crowd, and you kind of lean in. And I'm not trying to take him off the hook. He said what he said, but...
And then on the other side of that, Coach Day as a competitor, is wired that way, felt like he needed to respond, and he did after the game. And so, it's one of those situations to where, I don't know if it was unfortunate, but, sometimes emotions run high on both sides. Like you said, when you have a crowd in front of you and you're Coach Day, you're coming out of a big-time win, and you feel like some guys, I guess, disrespected your team and who they were. Yeah, I don't think he'd be the only person that would have responded.
Yeah, he's you could say that, certainly his time at Notre Dame was massive because he left Minnesota to take over a team, and the Irish were not good when he got there. Like, they weren't. That was a team that had to kind of reinvent themselves. And I remember the times when, after that he went to South Carolina, and I had covered the Outback Bowl down there. I think it was maybe Coop's last game. And South Carolina beat Ohio State, and Ryan Brewer, who was Mr. Football from Ohio, I think Troy, ran over them. And it was kind of a wild scene where he took the Gamecocks to a kind of a 9-10 win season and beat Ohio State in the process. But what I'll remember from him, he had a zest for life that very few people have. It's one of the where it's just dripping from him. Anywhere he was comfortable. I've never, whether he was wearing UCLA blue walking into Ohio State, into the Woody, and Urban saying, hey, let's get you a different, he just always felt comfortable, whether he's speaking in front of the University of Texas football team or whether he's speaking to a group of high school kids. And we've had Aaron Taylor on the program many times who played for him, and even Aaron does a great imitation of him. Yeah. And I just think he had a perfect blend. Aaron's always said, we talked to Aaron about this at the Super Bowl too. Aaron has always said that Lou, it's a cliche, he made me a better person, not just a better football player, but he truly believed that was in Lou's bag, that he wanted to make people better people, along with then training them to be better football players. And he was a big believer in nothing can stop you. Nothing. Only you can stop you. And I got to listen to him when they brought him in, when Johnny Johnson brought him into the Unverfirth house, and that effort. And I'm telling you, I was just captivated. I was so envious of his ability to captivate people and to be able to speak and to be funny and to be informative and to inspire. Like, he checked every box, this guy. And you'd stick a microphone in front of him, and you'd talk to him about Ohio State. And he was only for that 1 year, but they won the title. And he would reel off the roster, and then he'd start singing, down the field, show that. Like, he would do it right in front of you. And it's like, I could just feel the pride that he had in being a Buckeye just for that great season of 68 being an assistant coach. And so, and then for him to go into broadcasting and have the iconic chemistry with Mark May and how they were adversarial, but they were friendly. And he found a way to navigate those waters. And then even at the end, when he was maybe he needed to be protected from himself a little bit, but he was more than happy to go down swinging because that's kind of who he was. And it's a heck of a tribute that he's such a good dude, honestly.
And like you laid out, just always had a great energy to him. And I just remember growing up and watching he and Mark May on ESPN, and just obviously the football knowledge was through the roof with him, but you could always go to that TV show at the time and get a laugh, because how could you not feel like, you're enjoying what you're watching when you have that guy who is always having a good time. And in our business, I think listeners and viewers can feel energy, whether it's through a TV screen or through a microphone. And I know I've always enjoyed people that feel like they're enjoying doing their job. And whether it was coaching or whether it was broadcasting, I always felt that way about Lou Holtz. And there's been iconic coaches and iconic figures in this sport that leave behind not only their football resume, but certain things that are either the Bear Bryant hat or Tress with the sweater vest. I don't know, Tress is still with us, but you still have Lou Holtz and the voice of Lou Holtz, and that voice is going to live on forever and ever and ever. And so you can always respect who the man was, but there's not a lot of people that can leave behind something that's so recognizable the way that his voice will be recognizable. And so you sharing the stories about being in the same room with him and hearing the stories that he told to me growing up and watching him, and obviously more people that know him much better than I ever will, you hear how they talk about him, and I think that's what legacies are all about. And there's no doubt Lou Holtz is leaving behind a tremendous legacy, will always be respected for what he did, especially over there at Notre Dame. But you can throw in a clip anywhere in any room that has football fans in it, and when they hear that voice, they're going to be able to identify who that man is, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah. He was in front of a microphone his whole life. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to say some things you probably regret. But he moved forward, and he was a college football Hall of Famer. And TLC might know this more than I do because he's the big Notre Dame guy. But the play like a champion went in when he was there. That was something that was put in then. I don't recall whether he's the one that did it or that made that happen. But that whole play like a champion sign that's in their locker room, which all the players continue to honor on their way out to the field, went up during his time.
Incredible.
And he also did something that a lot of old school coaches do. And I don't know how well this would go over in this era, but he took the names off the back of their jerseys. Most high school kids want their name on the back of their jersey. But he was about team. And it kind of followed them all the way, that university and that program. And so there are certain parts about him that will live forever. That's one of both of those things I just mentioned about play like a champion and taking the names off the jerseys. But he has a lasting legacy at Notre Dame. And I think it goes beyond the records and beyond his football acumen. I think most of the guys that you will hear talk about him, whether it's Jerome Bettis or Aaron Taylor or other guys, will talk about what he did for them as people. Mm-hmm. That's what you hear mostly. I don't hear a lot of guys. In fact, even the funny stories that Taylor used to tell us were about funny stuff at practice. It wasn't about he showed me this technique, or I couldn't do this, and he told me how to do it. Now I can do it.
The other stuff is more important.
Yeah.
Right? And if you can tap into that, emotion and that connection with somebody like that, those are things that people never forget. There's been things that people have said to me my entire life that were inspiring, that I remember where I was when they told me. So I have to imagine a guy like that being on the grind with a coach like that day in and day out. If you're Aaron Taylor, Jerome Bettis, or whoever coached or was coached by him, whether it was Minnesota or Arkansas or South Carolina, he's obviously going to be known for the 10 years that he spent at Notre Dame. But all those guys, I'm sure, have great memories and life lessons that they learned from Lou Holtz.
Yeah. Got his first coaching opportunity as a grad assistant at Iowa went to William and Mary, then UConn, South Carolina, and, of course, as we mentioned, an Ohio State assistant coach. And he was a member of that Buckeye coaching staff for the 68 Sophs, the national championship season. He is survived by his 4 children, Luann, Skip, obviously Kevin and Elizabeth, and Skip, Kevin, and Elizabeth all graduated from Notre Dame. So he will always be a legend Golden Domer. We'll come back with a pre-snap read for you and the option that maybe nobody is talking about for Kyler Murray. Maybe nor should they be. That's next. Rothman and Ice and the Fan.
Most of the football players chose USC over UCLA because it's easier to spell.
The sound of Paul.